Hey guys, in today's video I'm doing a blank comic book cover. As you can see, it says Batman and Robin Eternal, but my client wanted the 1966 Batman and Robin completed on the front cover. I don't know if you were able to see it, but there was a light sketch on the front of a bust of Batman and Robin. As you can tell, the front, it looks nothing like the image that I'm currently coloring. This is actually on the back. My client wanted me to do a commission on the front, in which case I wanted to show you the front, what it looks like. But on the back, I am currently doing the image of Batman and Robin scaling a building, that they're notorious for scaling buildings all the time. Anyways, so with this commission, I've actually never done a blank comic book cover. So I was very nervous to do this. I wasn't sure on what to expect. My client actually gave me a reference for the front, and I told him I was really nervous and that I've never done a commission on a blank comic book cover, so I didn't know what to expect. He said, why not do something on the back, play with it, test out my markers or my pencils or paint or whatever medium I wanted to use. He didn't really care what I did on the back, but he bounced some ideas off of me of what he would like if I did something on the back, just to play with it, decide what I would like to do, and go from there. But on the front, he wanted the bust of Batman and Robin and from the 1966. And of course, why not put them on the back as well? So with the ideas he gave me and the references that we went through, this is what I decided to do. He actually didn't know what I decided to do on the back. I actually kept that from him. I didn't want to tell him right off the bat. I wanted to leave it as a surprise. So, being nervous with this comic book, I decided to go to a group on Facebook that I'm a part of. It is called the Artcasters. I will leave a link at the bottom for the Facebook group, and like I said, because I've never done a comic book cover, I didn't know what to expect. So I went online and I got feedback from some of the people in the group. I asked them a whole bunch of questions because I didn't know what to expect. So I got quite a few replies and I got a bunch of feedback about comic book blanks. They said that what mediums would work best would be pencil, crayons are good. Markers can be good as well. They said to watch out for for gloss comic books. If they're glossy, they can be a little bit hard to work with because the medium doesn't necessarily set into the paper. It kind of just sits on the surface. And not only that, if you're using pencil crayons, it is kind of waxy and very slippery and it won't pick up the pencil. So to watch out for that. But that pencils would be okay. And to just try doing something with your medium to really try and work with it. So luckily for me, my client said that I could do anything that I wanted on the back, and just to play with it, because originally he was like, well, just doodle something, like sketch something, it doesn't matter, like it's fine. And I was like, no, I'm gonna do like an image on the back. This is a #1 edition, and it's quite valuable, I guess. So I didn't want to wreck the back. I wanted to keep its value, if not increase the value with an original artwork on it. So then he also mentioned, sorry, I'm trying to think of what our conversation was, because this was done quite a while ago, but he also said that he had a duplicate of this comic book cover. So not only did he give me one to work on and to do, that he said, well, worst case scenario, if you wreck it or if you screw it up, I have another one sitting at home, so it's not that big of a deal. And I was like, oh, okay, well that actually takes a lot of pressure off, because when you're dealing with a comic book cover, it's one of a kind, right? Well, not necessarily one of a kind, but because it is a blank, you don't want to screw it up, and you want to make sure that it is something that your client wants. Because as soon as you make a mistake, it can be very difficult to rectify your mistake. Because when you're dealing with a comic book cover, as I'm sure many of you know, those of you that are listening, is that if you screw up, you screw the entire thing up. It's not like your paper in your studio or your sketchbook or a pad of paper where if you're doing a commission for someone of their animal, of a fan art, of a portrait, you could just rip out another piece of paper out of your book and continue to work on that one. You screw up, you throw it out, you can start another one. But the thing with a comic book cover is if you screw it up, you screw it up. You can't fix it. You can't rectify it. You could try to. It depends on how big of your screw up is, and yeah. But the fact that he said he had an extra one at home and not to worry about it, that took so much pressure off of me, and I was very grateful and thankful for that. So I was like, phew. But I might as well talk a little bit about my process. I actually started with putting down marker. And then I topped it with pencil crayon. I used my Faber Castel pencil crayons and Copic markers. I started with the dark values, as you could tell by Robin's boots. Instead of starting with the blacks, I started with the dark greens because I didn't want to start with the blacks. And I started with the darks on Robin's boots because I figured, hey, they're boots. I wasn't sure if my markers would bleed, so starting with something as abstract as boots, where it's not a focal point, I figured I couldn't go wrong. And with starting with the boots, with one of the darker values, is that I was able to get a high contrast. So starting with the dark, you can go lighter from there. Something with me that I struggle with is the fact that I tend not to have really high contrast art. Over the years I have gotten a lot better, but I like to start with the dark as much as possible, because then you can always go lighter from there. You can't necessarily go darker unless you go straight to black, and black is your darkest value, but in this case I started with the green, which is the dark value. The paper and the comic book paper, it actually took the markers really well. There was no bleed whatsoever that I could tell, and I was very happy with that. And I was very excited because I was like, oh, so this teeny tiny image that I'm using marker on can actually not bleed, so then I can get the high detail that I need. So I was very happy about that. With Batman, I didn't actually start dark on him. I started with his gray pants. He's not actually wearing pants, he's wearing spandex. Spandex? I think they're called spandex. They're not Lulus, but yeah, I started with his pants and I worked from there, and then I did the emblem on his chest because he's got black there to kind of work from the darkest value there. I wanted to start dark instead of light, but for Batman I thought I'd do something a little bit different. But the high contrast works really well, but I find that my problem is if you start with a medium tone or a light tone, as soon as you start putting in your darker values, it washes out those lighter tones and then you have to go over it again. So in which case, that is something that I actually had to do on Batman, is that I put it in his grays and then I did his darks, and then I was like, oh, well his grays aren't dark enough, so I'm going to have to go back over top of it, which kind of sucks, but you live and you learn, right? To do the images on the back was great. This was a great starting point. I knew exactly how my mediums were going to work and how the paper would hold my mediums, the detail I would be able to get, and it was just awesome. The result I got on the back, I was very pleased with and very happy with. As you can actually tell, the drawing is actually on a horizontal, like I'm drawing it horizontal instead of the vertical view because my eye did not like looking at it vertically versus horizontally. My brain was like tickled, and I was like, no, I have to draw it horizontally. But it worked out in the end, and then when you turn it vertically, it's pleasing to the mind. But this drawing was super fun. I had learned a lot, and I know how comic book blank covers will handle markers for the future. And the funny thing is, I'm a huge Walking Dead fan, and my client actually gave me as a gift a blank The Walking Dead cover, and so I'm really excited about that. I did sketch something up on the front of it. I haven't colored it yet. I haven't touched it since, but that is something in the works. I've been really enjoying doing animals as of late, so I've kind of been on that animal, what do you call it? Enjoying drawing animals again. It's not something that I regularly do, but this past Christmas, my client actually gave me 2 more of the exact same blank comic book covers for The Walking Dead, so that takes a lot more pressure off of me, because then I have 3 copies of the same comic book cover, and then I'm able to really do anything with it, so I'm excited about that. My favorite part on this drawing is actually doing the highlights. The highlights on his gloves, on his mask, on his cape, on his boots. I just loved it. It just made the drawing pop, and it's like so 3D. It's phenomenal. But after putting on the darks, where was I going with that? Okay then, never mind, that went out of my head. But I have to say the most challenging thing about this drawing is the fact that the faces were so small. They're about thumbnail size, and to get the detail in there was very challenging, but it worked out really well and I loved it. So the thing with me is just keep layering, and it worked out in the end. Speaking of the end, my client loved the back. He was pleasantly surprised, and it was awesome. It was fantastic. I was super stoked. So, but like I said, this is part A of part B. Stay tuned for part B, which is actually the front comic book cover of the bust image of Batman and Robin. But doing the back was very rewarding and very satisfying, because now I know what my markers could do and how my pencils react with the paper and how much pencil it picks up. I was just so happy, and I think it turned out really well. My client was super, super happy. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate the likes, the thumbs ups, and if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, hit that subscribe button. There will be more videos in the future, in which case the part B for this comic book cover. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them in the comments section, and we will see you guys in the next video. Thanks guys, take care, bye-bye.